Howdy guys, I'll touch up that scoreboard in just a second. Ord, take away the intros from me, sir.
Certainly, starting in the lower right-hand corner of our map, Belgium Vestige. It is from Mouse Esports, Hope.
And his opponent in the upper left corner, playing for Millenium, it is none other than GosWser. And even to this day, even though I understand the W in his name, I still hate the W in his name, because if you try and read this name phonetically, you're going to give yourself a headache. But Gosu space user, literally a W, is why he chose to put that in his name. And Ord, even a year later, I still can't get past that.
Yeah, I definitely, the first time I saw it was like, GosWser? GosWser? What? Why? I don't understand.
I know, even though I know how to say it, I still read this as GosWser or something like that.
Yes. It's kind of like, why would you put those two consonants together, S and W? I'm sure there are words out there. Come on, I have on my first cup of coffee. Jeez. It's nice to have Mondays off, though. Kind of liking it. So right now we have, so far, no real deviations from the last game. Nothing too crazy. Have the first hatchery going down for both players at 15.
There's not a lot of games where you can be like, look, that was a very honorable, very distinctive win. There was no, clear advantage or this or that. But one of the big things that I want to give note of here is I think Hope, maybe, he did all that very early game damage, and I think maybe he got a little cocky. I think that's why we saw it takes so long to transition into his own Hydralisks. I really want this game to boil down to Hydralisk versus Roaches. In fact, I would love for this to replicate the way Game 1 went, but this time Hope, instead of sticking to Banelings for so long, makes the transition a little bit sooner. That's my hope, if you will. 2 cents.
Actually, though, if you were on this map right now, Riss, what do you think that you'd prefer to be doing in a Game 2 scenario?
As a Zerg player, probably crawl into a hole and die, because I'm a terrible Zerg player. But for these guys, what I imagine for them to do is just what I said. I'd love for this to go the exact same way. I mean, Hope with some amazing Mutalisk control managed to do a lot of damage to GosWser, a lot more than he should have, quite frankly. But a lot of that stemmed from the early damage, pressure, I should say, he's applying with the Zerglings. If Hope kind of stays back in macros, I don't know that he can keep up with GosWser. I'm not saying he can't or can't. I'm saying I very literally don't know if he can keep up with GosWser, because GosWser, as we saw last game, some incredible control, some great, calm under pressure situations.
This is true. He's a pretty poised player. We've seen him around a lot, and Hope, I'm fairly certain, is a younger player. We haven't seen him all that often as it is.
Yeah, but as I said earlier, Hope has been making his way onto the scene. There's a lot of players out there who, they might be younger, they might be newer, but they kick a lot of ass, and I gotta say, 2 of them definitely reside on Mouse Sports. Hero Marine, of course, being the other big contender. He's going to try to slip in, but these queens should be able to shut this down. A nice little awkward block there, and no scouting information from GosWser whatsoever. And that's a little frustrating, because if we took a look at his vision, all he sees is there's the natural hatchery. There's 2 queens. Well, that doesn't tell you much, because that's what every Zerg player opens with. He doesn't know whether this is going to be speed all in. We've got 2 gases being taken by Hope. Will he throw down an evolution chamber, or will it be a Baneling nest? Maybe even a Roach Warren. GosWser has no idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of directions that he can go in, and that's actually one of my favorite parts about HOTS right now for Zerg, is that they do have so many different directions, so many kinds of ways that the game can evolve.
For a lot of races, you can distinctively say what is kind of the best, quote-unquote, for them. We have a nice scout coming here for Hope. But, I mean, Protest players, sentries make and break some games. Drops from Terran players, whether it's Hellbats or whether it's Marines, very effective. Zerg players, I gotta say the most definitively effective thing we see out of them are their ability to pull off tech swaps or just pure macro. One of the two tends to always be the better player. And I mean, we're not gonna see, I don't imagine we'll see a lot of tech swaps with players opening with Roach Warren. We even got the evolution chamber for GosWser already researching +1 weapons, so I doubt we'll see a transition into Ultralisks anytime soon. So it's gonna come down to a really big macro game.
Quite possibly. Evo Chamber, Roach Warren really cutting off any kind of aggression potential from some sort of early Banelings, but really, that's not in the cards as the lair is almost completed.
I like how GosWser does this. Again, we see a pretty early hatchery coming out of him, and I think a lot of this stems from the confidence he has in being able to defend it.
Yep. I think that's a really valid point, and it puts you ahead. I mean, even if you never end up saturating it, at least you have those extra larvae. But Hope is not far behind with his, only about 20-30 game seconds behind.
Well, obviously, you're going to get into the base. Finally, GosWser will be able to get that scout off that he wanted to. The only thing you'll see right now, though, is that there's a little bit of an over-droning problem in Hope's main, but that's okay, because those will be turned into buildings, I imagine, in a moment or two.
Yeah. 5 roaches, actually. Kind of a decent investment from GosWser. I wonder if he's going to poke forward with that.
Oh, wow. Losing the Overseer actually supply blocked him. It's a little awkward.
Oopsie-daisy.
Well, both players with thirds around the same time. I mean, look at the tech paths are very similar to one another. The only big difference is Hope is going for the ground armor instead of no armor. So in the early clashes, this is going to be the difference of like having 2 or 3 extra roaches on the field. And unless GosWser can really capitalize on that, you can very quickly fall behind due to that lack of armor. But in lieu of this, we actually have an infestation pit coming out. So we're going to see infestors on the field once more.
And actually some interesting statistics from our peanut gallery. Thanks, chat. Apparently Hope is older than GosWser. He's 22. So it just hasn't been as prevalent in the scene. So it makes him seem younger.
That's pretty cool. The roaches to GosWser have their speed kick in. He'll have a small little advantage where he can actually hit and run Hope's roaches, albeit just barely. As his speed's about to finish up here in a second. +1 almost completed. The armor is definitely not going to be here by the time GosWser picks a fight, so it'll be some pretty even footing. And right now, it's about even numbers of roaches. But of course, Hope has that defender's advantage plus queens.
Yeah, the queens being added in there, just one little transfuse could turn the entire battle. And actually, GosWser says, oh, okay, I'm glad that you produced those units and didn't just drone up, so I'm satisfied with that. I'm going to go home.
You know, a really scary thing, too, is I think a lot of people heavily undervalue the defender's advantage in Zerg versus Zerg, because that reinforcement point, man, unless you have, like, a Nidus Worm on the field, there's no way to equalize that.
Right, and especially, I mean, we are seeing a decent amount of creep spread from both players in this game, but typically in a ZVZ, you see almost none at all.
It's going to be...
It takes forever.
It's going to be really awkward when they start spreading creep on each other's creep. Ugh. Makes me cringe just thinking about it. There's
that does seem just not right. Like, on an intimate level, you should not be spreading creep on other people's creep. You just shouldn't. And we have...
That's a terrible start for GosWser, but blank. Look at the blanket of Fungal Sword.
Yeah, and the fungals on top are a good idea, but unfortunately GosWser does not pull back from that at all, just taking punches to the face from these roaches. And Transfuse does get involved there from a Queen who's also becoming involved. Hope has split up in 2 different directions right now, cutting off some reinforcements. Actually, an Evo Chamber got corrupted there by Hope. I like that little touch. He's delaying the upgrade. And now Hope really actually is going to be able to target fire completely.
He's getting some lings out right now, but this is mostly out of desperation. Because Hope is coming across the field with more reinforcements, and this is just looking not good for GosWser.
Yeah, and at this point, he definitely could have targeted down the hatchery before this point. I kind of wish that he had, so there wouldn't be any of these minerals, because GosWser is able to pop out 12 more, 13 more roaches. But these infestors behind, they can't burrow, they don't have enough energy to do anything else. Oh, they're kind of a waste.
That +1 armor playing such a big role, pivotal in this fight. And even if GosWser holds this, it's going to be 2-2 as the follow-up. This is looking mighty good for Hope.
Yeah, in fact, actually, now Hope is in a position where he could take out the Roach Warren.
It's pretty much game over at this point as well. It's really not looking good for GosWser, but that's okay, because you know what? This is going to take us to game 3, and I'm plenty happy with that. 2 really high caliber players squaring off.